Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening. It's wonderful to have participants joining from all over the world today. We have participants from more than 70 companies and organizations online today. Welcome to this webinar called How to Build the Business Case for Sustainability. My name is Karin Ekberg, and I'm the manager of the consulting company Leadership and Sustainability. Before I started my own company, I worked several years at Adidas in the role of head of environmental services, and before that at other companies, managing sustainability at corporate level. As a sustainability professional, I have always asked myself, how do I engage my management and win them for my projects? Over the past 30 years, I have studied the topic of sustainability and its costs and benefits. And here I listed a few of the questions that I have asked myself. How can I best incorporate sustainability goals into the business strategy? Is investing in more sustainable business practices really worth it? How do I pick and choose the sustainability initiatives to work on? And how can I use sustainability initiatives to my advantage? How could sustainability support my business strategy? And finally, how can I create buy-in with my top management? And actually, only 38% of CEOs report that they are able to accurately quantify the business value of their company sustainability initiative. Today, we will talk about different ways to define the business case for sustainability. We will show you the results of our very comprehensive literature research and our conclusions for the business case structure. We will discuss how to build the business case for your company or organization and how to link it to your sustainability strategy. We have also lots of business case examples available for you. And then we will give you the opportunity to give input and ask questions. And finally, we have an offer and information about our company for you. The foundation for this webinar is our white paper that will be published within a few days. We have spent months of literature research focusing on so-called meta-studies that have described and exemplified the business case for sustainability. Please make sure you download the white paper later, and please feel free to forward it to your CEO too. In order to tackle the definition of the business case for sustainability and to put it into the right context, we have identified a few challenges, and let's have a look at them. As many of you who attend this webinar will know, there are lots of challenges when defining or working with a business case. Sustainability is still often seen as a soft topic that is a nice to have and nothing else. And some of the challenges are listed here. Every so often, the business case for sustainability is plainly not understood. There are no or only poor accounting and management information systems available, which means that there is not sufficient data around to even calculate the business case. The implementation into your core business strategy is either not supported by management or it's very difficult. And sometimes the business model may need to be more flexible and the conventional approach toward the business model needs to be revisited. It's difficult to find the strategic link to the core business strategy. However, as we will see today, there are measures you can take to overcome these challenges. So how do we define the business case? Well, we have two suggestions here on this slide. One, the easy one, the Wikipedia one. The business case is a reason for initiating a task or a project. And the second one, the business case is an argument for a project, and the project should have an attractive return as shown by the business case. As I mentioned, we have done a very comprehensive literature review, and one of the questions we asked was, how do researchers classify the drivers for the business case? And in this table, we have summarized 5 different studies that all have identified a number of drivers, and we will now briefly walk through these different studies. Henderson has defined 3 drivers: preventing brand damage and/or preserving your license to operate, increasing operational efficiency, and selling to the environmental niche. Schaltegger and his team have defined 6 different drivers that I will list here. For example, costs and cost reduction, risk and risk reduction, and finally, innovative capabilities. BITC, Business in the Community, has in their study the business case for being a responsible business, defined several drivers, similar to the ones we have seen before, but there are a few that are new, and let's go to them. And those are organizational growth, business opportunity, responsible leadership, and macro-level sustainable development. Another study, Why Sustainability is Now the Key Driver of Innovation, by Nidmulu and his colleagues, defined yet a few other drivers, like viewing compliance as an opportunity, making value chains sustainable, designing sustainable products and services, developing new business models, and creating next practice platforms. And finally, Wills has, in the business case for environmental sustainability, defined drivers of which one hasn't been mentioned before, namely customer loyalty and attraction. And several of the others we have already seen before. And so we can see that although all of these studies have developed different lists, and the terminology may also be different, they still have a significant overlap. And now let's see what we shall make out of this. Now we will speak a bit about how you can build a business case for your company and the process for it. But before we go there, I have this statement for you. To be truly successful with your sustainability strategy, you needed to address your material sustainability aspects and not only create good stories or respond to NGO attacks, but you also need to have a business case for it and create buy-in with the help of your business case. And out of the 5 studies we just talked about, we at Leadership and Sustainability have developed a structure for the business case that has 6 categories. We believe that most drivers can be allocated to one of these 6 categories. And let's have a look at our structure here. Out of the many options to structure the business case, we have selected this structure, the structure you see here on the left. We have defined the categories compliance, risk minimization, cost savings, integrated operations, brand and reputation enhancement, and finally, innovation and market development. And as you can see to the right, we have clustered these 6 categories into 3 groups that are related to the financial impact. And the 3 groups are cost avoidance, related to compliance and risk minimization. So for example, let us say you implement a strong RSL, a restricted substances list, or a blacklist for chemicals, and you strike up a partnership related to chemicals management. If you have ever experienced a product recall, you will know that it can be quite costly, not to mention the loss of trust among your customers. If you are communicating about your sustainability projects, and especially about sustainability in relation to your products, then be careful that you make sound and defendable environmental claims. The next category is saving costs is a great way to make a profit out of your sustainability efforts. Some easy wins are, for example, energy savings or waste reductions or packaging reductions. Another saving falling into integrated operations is related to consolidation. This can be related to, for example, suppliers. It can be related to the different materials, the different raw materials you are using, or to the chemicals you are using. And finally, generate additional revenue, which is related to brand and reputation enhancement and innovation and market development. Creating a strong reputation and building a brand can be very rewarding financially. Another way to generate additional revenue is to increase your market share with existing products or with more sustainable products. So what are the steps to develop the business case and decide about the project? Well, the steps themselves, they are quite straightforward, and you see them here in this flowchart. Define your potential project or goal is the first step. When defining your potential sustainability project, ask yourself where the levers in your company are in order to shift it to a more sustainable modus operandi. Is your business energy consumption intensive? Then try to save energy. Are you producing a lot of toxic waste? Think about reducing it and or using less toxic material. Every company has a lot of potential to become more active for sustainability. And to start with, you can list the projects that you think would contribute most to your organization's sustainability performance. Second, set long-term goals and gather information. After you have found your project, set measurable goals for it. If your company is active in retailing, an example could be to save 10% of energy in 10% of your flagship stores within the next 2 years. Ask yourself what the benefits of running the project would be. How much energy measured in kilowatt hours, for example, could you save? How much cost would you then save? However, at this stage, you also have to think about the investment that you need in order to drive the project. Therefore, it's important to evaluate the different methods to reach your goal, as there is usually more than one way. Is it enough to switch to energy-saving lamps, or what other levers influence my energy consumption? Third, assess the benefits and costs. As soon as you have identified the costs and benefits of your potential project, you can weigh them against each other. You can ask yourself if the environmental benefits as well as the savings are significant enough for you to run the project, and compare with other projects and their benefits and costs and savings. Keep in mind what is important for you in the first place, and consider if the costs are okay, bearing in mind the benefits. Fourth, decide tentatively about whether or not to go with the project. Based on all your gathered and weighed information, you are now able to make a decision about whether to run the project or not. At this point, you might also think about adjusting the strategy and methods for your project in order to make it a success. And fifth, build your project portfolio and get going. So the last step is to repeat the steps 1 to 4 with all your potential projects. Collect all the projects that comply with your standards and goals and create your individual sustainability program. Summarize the benefits, costs, and savings, and start setting up the implementation plan for your sustainability strategy. And before we pull everything together, let's take one step back and look at the topic of materiality. And what do we mean by materiality? Well, we mean what is really important. What are material sustainability aspects for you? What are the most important ones? Which are the ones that you should focus on and that you need to prioritize? And developing a strong sustainability strategy can be a real challenge. You need to know where your material aspects are along your value chain, and then build a strategy that meets the gaps, the impacts, the risks and opportunities along the value chain. This table here is a high-level representation of this kind of materiality assessment, and it gives an example of how you could identify the sustainability potentials along your value chain. It helps you to concentrate on your material aspects by assigning sustainability aspects to different levels of potential. But also, this structure helps you to locate the different aspects in your value chain, as opposed to just having the topic or the aspect listed. Sustainability along the value chain. Your strategy should also be aligned as far as possible with your company's business strategy. Therefore, you definitely need to analyze your company's business strategy and look at the implications this strategy has for your sustainability impact. But the other way around as well. With your business case, you will state clearly how sustainability supports your business strategy. And one example can be your procurement practices. So your procurement practices has a significant impact on how sustainability is being managed in your supply chain. And there are lots of things you can do to adjust your procurement practices in order to drive sustainability performance in your supply chain. Now we have the pieces for the business case. We know where to focus on our materiality assessment. We go into the goal setting iteration process. You see the figure here to the very left. And then we enter the process of developing the business cases. Again, with step 1, define your potential project. Step 2, what is the benefit? What are the costs? And the step 3, assess the benefits and the costs. Step 4, you decide about the project, go or no go. And step 5, you do the same exercise with all potential projects you have. And finally, you have a portfolio of projects that you can weigh against each other. Then you summarize everything and you have your total program with benefits, costs, and savings. And now we will have a look at different examples of business cases taken from many different industries. But let me first introduce you to the largest independent institutional investor, Mr. Blackrock. Blackrock is trusted to manage more money than any other independent investment firm. And this is based on a capital of 6.3 trillion US dollar as per the end of 2017. 6.3 trillion US dollar. BlackRock CEO made a much cited statement just a few weeks ago. To prosper over time, every company must not only deliver financial performance, but also show how it makes a positive contribution to society. Without a sense of purpose, no company, either public or private, can achieve its full potential. It will ultimately lose the license to operate from key stakeholders. BlackRock can choose to sell the securities of a company if we are doubtful about its strategic direction or long-term growth. So this was Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock. And this is one of the strongest statements made by such a large investor in recent years. Now, this and the following slides will show you examples of business cases. On this first slide, we have several textile examples, but we will cover other sectors after this slide. So at Bed Bath & Beyond, Nordstrom and JCPenney were fined $1.3 million US for making misleading claims about products made from bamboo. H&M had to withdraw a product from the market due to high levels of chromium-6 in leather. And by the way, chromium-6 levels in leather products continue to pose a problem for many brands and their suppliers. Adidas, for example, saved a lot of money on an annual basis with an internal energy savings program. And Marks & Spencer has increased productivity in factories in Bangladesh and thereby reducing staff turnover and absenteeism. And Zara, owned by Inditex, has reported 500 million euro of savings by designing their products to reduce their life cycle environmental impact. A few more examples here. Volkswagen lost 23% of its market capitalization after the emissions scandal more than 2 years ago, and subsequently agreed with the US authorities to pay in total $14.7 billion US by taking back cars in order to compensate consumers and to mitigate the pollution from these cars. And the final outcome of this emissions scandal we are yet to see. The development here in Germany especially is still underway. And another example, H&M has reduced its electricity consumption in stores by 14% in 1 year. Pachacuti has improved quality significantly. And Starbucks has combined a green store environment with an attractive working environment. And finally, Patagonia sees revenues of around $500 million from environmentally friendly products. Berlin builders were fined $385,000 for exposing workers for dangerous fall hazards. BP lost 50% of its share value after the Deepwater Horizon accident in 2010. And Procter & Gamble reports $1.6 billion in savings due to improvements in waste management. So we can see there are vast opportunities. A few other here. Philips revenues from green products reached euro 11.8 billion, representing a share of 51% of their total revenues. And Tetra Pak is well known for its environmental savings in their packaging solutions. And here are several other examples how companies have positioned themselves for a more profitable business with the help of sustainability programs. Bosch, for example, spends more than 1.7 billion euro of its research budget on resource-conserving products, products that also generate nearly 40% of the company's sales. So those were the examples, and there are many more examples available in our white paper. When we send you the recording and the slides, you will also be able to download our white paper, which cites many more examples of business cases. But not only that, the white paper also analyzes the business case definition and the drivers at a substantial depth. So don't forget to forward it in its entirety or the executive summary to your management. And now, time for you. Let's open up for questions and remarks. And I have seen there are several questions coming in. Let me just have a look at those questions, but please also continue to send us questions. There is one question here, and you mentioned that to build a good reputation and brand value is something that is can be financially very attractive, and we wonder how you could quantify this. And yes, of course, this is spot on. A tricky topic. It's very difficult to quantify. There are some values you can do. You can use the share value. You can also use income statements, and but very often it's actually quite different to truly quantify. And here we have to work with qualitative measures instead. And there is one question here. In the example of Airbnb and shared value, how would you advise a business to balance this action against removing homes out of the community economy? Well, I must say this goes beyond where I can advise. Truly, this is not a specialty of mine, so it's very difficult, and I completely know what you are talking about. There has been a lot of criticism against Airbnb for this, but I have no response to that. Sorry for that. Any other questions? Would you say that a change in production or supply chain should be the first step before engaging in a communication strategy that supports social organizations? If you mean social organizations in terms of community outreach and community development, then yes, I would say, of course, a sustainability program needs to be balanced with a lot of different elements. But I do think that it's most important to first work within your own sphere of influence, i.e. related to your own business operations. So if your supply chain, if your procurement practices has a significant impact in the supply chain, yeah, then I would start there. And also when it comes to community engagement and working with social organizations, many companies prefer to work with organizations that are active in an area that is very strongly related to their business. Yeah, there are several other questions coming here, and some of them I will reply to them offline. I think there are some more related to which tools to use. All right. So with that, I think we will continue. And I want to thank you for joining this webinar. We will be sending this presentation and a link to the recording within the next few days. And it's now time to wrap up. And I have some information about my company and also an offer that I would like to present to you. Briefly about leadership and sustainability. We offer a broad range of services and have a team of consultants here in Europe, but also in Asia and in the US. We are a member of SAC, Sustainable Apparel Coalition. We recently launched a reference page on our website where some of our reference projects are published. Please feel free to go and have a look there. The link is available at the bottom of this slide. And now here is an offer to you. It is a one-day workshop face-to-face where we will work on your strategy and your business cases together. You will get training on a structured approach to sustainability strategy, a tool to develop your business cases for several of your goals or projects, and the workshop will be tailor-made to meet your needs. And for the price of Euro 2,500. And when you buy by March 31st, you will get an additional strategy presentation of 1 hour duration in a webinar format for an internal audience. And if you would prefer a webinar-based workshop instead of a face-to-face workshop, then please contact us and we can discuss your exact needs. And finally, I have information for those of you who are in the textile, footwear, and apparel business. With the new SAC FEM Facility Environmental Module, a new program for verifiers and trainers has been established. And I have been approved to go through all 3 trainings as a general verifier, a chemical specialist verifier, and as a trainer. I have already passed the examination to become a general verifier. Proud to say that I was the first verifier to take the exam within this new program. So I'm ready to support your supplier facilities or your own facilities with off-site and on-site verifications. So please contact us to discuss more. And before I say goodbye, I wish to inform you that there will be a survey with 4 questions after this webinar. We are grateful for your input, so please take 2 minutes to respond to the survey. And finally, I wish to thank Imke and Teresa for the great help with developing this presentation and this webinar. Thank you so much. Wonderful work. And to all of you, thank you for joining us today, and goodbye.